The day was quiet, yet inside Sheng Xiaoyu's chest, chaos brewed. He had been feeling restless for days, his body heavier than usual, his emotions swinging wildly between anger, longing, and exhaustion. At first, he had blamed it on stress, on work, on the sleepless nights spent with Hua Yong's shadow lingering over him. But slowly, doubt crept in. His body was changing in ways he couldn't explain. Sheng stood in front of the bathroom mirror, hands gripping the counter so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His reflection stared back at him, pale, shaken, and trembling. Something was wrong. His instincts told him something impossible was happening, something his mind refused to accept. It wasn't until the doctor called him with results that the world shattered. "Mr. Sheng," the voice on the other end had said carefully, almost as if afraid to break him with the truth. You're pregnant." The phone nearly slipped from his hands. Pregnant? Impossible. He was an alpha, an S-class alpha, and alphas couldn't conceive. His heart pounded so violently that he thought it would tear through his chest. The word repeated in his mind like a curse: pregnant. Pregnant. Each echo stabbing deeper into his sanity. "No," he whispered to himself, gripping the phone tighter. That can't be." His breath came fast and shallow. He wanted to laugh, to scream, to deny everything. But the trembling of his hands and the undeniable truth of his changing body betrayed him. Sheng sank to the floor, his knees weak, his mind spinning. Pregnant. With Hua Yong's child. The realization crushed him. He remembered every moment, every night tangled in heat and surrender, Hua Yong's dominance wrapping around him like a chain. He had been claimed, yes, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. How could this happen? Sheng whispered, voice breaking. He knew biology, knew the rules of their world. An alpha could not impregnate another alpha. And Hua Yong was supposed to be an alpha too. That was what he had always believed. That was what Hua Yong had allowed him to believe. His stomach twisted violently as the truth began to surface. If this pregnancy was real, and it was, his body confirmed it every day, then Hua Yong had been lying to him. Again. The man who had manipulated, schemed, and controlled him had hidden yet another truth. Hua Yong wasn't just an alpha. He was something else. Something higher. Something Sheng had never fully understood. "Why didn't you tell me?" Sheng whispered into the empty room, tears pricking at his eyes. His reflection blurred in the mirror as he tried to comprehend the betrayal, the confusion, and the fear that consumed him. The shock turned to anger, sharp and burning. He had loved Hua Yong, trusted him despite everything. Even after the manipulation, the schemes, the lies, Sheng's heart had always returned to him. And now, this impossible pregnancy that shattered every truth Sheng had ever known about himself and about the man he loved. Sheng pressed a trembling hand to his stomach, heart hammering so violently it hurt. The thought of life inside him, his life, Hua Yong's life, their life made him tremble harder. He wanted to reject it, to deny it, to push it away. But part of him couldn't. Part of him, deep inside, felt the faintest flicker of warmth, a bond forming. A connection he hadn't asked for but couldn't ignore. His mind spun back to Hua Yong's voice. The words whispered in the darkness. "You're mine." Sheng had shivered then, overwhelmed by desire. Now those words cut deeper, binding him in ways he couldn't escape. Not only was he claimed by Hua Yong's dominance, he now carried Hua Yong's future inside him. Fear surged through him, overwhelming and suffocating. What would the world say? What would his enemies do? He was an alpha, strong, dominant, untouchable. Pregnancy made him vulnerable, exposed, weak. His brother, who had tried to destroy him before, would use this against him. His company, his reputation, everything he had built could crumble. But worse than all of that was Hua Yong. The betrayal burned like fire. Hua Yong had lied again. He had hidden his true identity. Manipulated Sheng into a bond, into surrender, and now into pregnancy. Sheng's hands shook violently as anger and grief warred inside him. He wanted to scream at Hua Yong, to demand answers, to demand the truth that had been denied him for so long. But part of him already knew. Hua Yong was not just an alpha. He was something more, an enigma. Sheng's chest tightened painfully as tears spilled down his cheeks. He hated this. Hated being weak. Hated being vulnerable. Hated being manipulated. But even as anger consumed him, he couldn't ignore the other truth. That part of him longed for Hua Yong's presence, his voice, his touch. Even in betrayal, even in confusion, his heart still craved him. The night stretched long as Sheng sat in the darkened room, hand pressed to his stomach, mind racing, pregnant, with Hua Yong's child. The words echoed endlessly, breaking him down piece by piece. He felt trapped in a storm with no escape, torn between love and hate, between fear and longing, between pride and surrender. When the door finally creaked open and Hua Yong's familiar silhouette appeared in the doorway, Sheng's heart nearly stopped. The man who had caused this chaos, this heartbreak, this impossible miracle stood before him, calm and composed as always. Sheng's anger flared, but his body trembled with longing all the same. Hua Yong, Sheng whispered, voice cracking, filled with pain and betrayal. His eyes burned as tears fell freely down his cheeks. Tell me the truth. What are you? The silence stretched heavy between them, charged with years of love, lies, and unspoken truths. And for the first time, Sheng realized the depth of the man he loved and the depth of the storm he had been pulled into. The night continued, the air still heavy with the scent of Sheng's heat and Hua Yong's possessive pheromones. Even though hours had already passed, neither of them showed signs of stopping. Sheng's body, trembling and sensitive from the relentless waves of desire, clung to Hua Yong as if he were the only anchor in the storm. His breath came out in shallow pants, his skin flushed red, his eyes glazed with tears that mixed pleasure with exhaustion. But Hua Yong wasn't done. His alpha instincts had fully awakened, drawn out by Sheng's irresistible heat. Every moan Sheng made, every shiver that ran through his body, only pushed Hua Yong to claim him deeper. Hua Yong's hands moved roughly, holding Sheng down, then gently, as if cherishing him, switching between passion and tenderness in a rhythm that Sheng couldn't resist. Yang, I can't anymore, Sheng whimpered, voice breaking into needy cries. But even as he said it, his body betrayed him. Arching into Hua Yong's touch, clenching desperately, begging for more without words. Hua Yong leaned close, lips brushing Sheng's ear, voice low and husky. You say you can't, but your body tells me otherwise. Sheng, you're mine. Every part of you belongs to me. Sheng's nails dug into Hua Yong's back, leaving red trails. He wanted to protest, but instead another moan spilled from his lips, loud and uncontrollable. Hua Yong kissed him hard, swallowing every sound, devouring his sweetness until Sheng was gasping for air. The room grew hotter, filled with the sounds of skin meeting skin, of rough breathing, of whispered curses and desperate pleas. Time lost meaning. The night stretched endlessly, and in that space there was only the two of them, an alpha and his omega, bound by instinct and overwhelming desire. Sheng's body shook as another wave of release crashed over him, tears spilling from his eyes, his voice breaking into Hua Yong's name. Hua Yong held him tighter, pressing kisses against his damp cheeks, his forehead, his lips before thrusting again, making Sheng cry out louder. You drive me insane, Hua Yong growled, his voice rough with desire. No one else can make me lose control like this. No one else can make me want to claim them again and again. Sheng's voice cracked as he begged, Yong, please, slow down. Just hold me. But Hua Yong didn't slow down. Instead, he shifted Sheng's legs higher, going deeper, making Sheng arch and scream his name. The pleasure was overwhelming, drowning him until he couldn't think, couldn't breathe, couldn't escape. At that moment, Sheng realized something. He had always thought of himself as strong, someone who didn't need anyone. But here, in Hua Yong's arms, his pride shattered. He was reduced to pure need, pure surrender. And strangely, instead of fear, he felt safe. Hua Yong kissed his neck, biting gently, then sucking harder, leaving deep marks that declared Sheng as his. Sheng shivered, every mark burning with possessive heat, every bite sealing his fate. The hours dragged on, each moment blending into the next. Sheng lost count of how many times he cried out, how many times he reached the peak, how many times Hua Yong whispered, "Mine," against his lips. When dawn finally began to creep through the curtains, Sheng was utterly spent. His body trembled with exhaustion, his throat hoarse from crying out all night. Hua Yong finally slowed, finally gave Sheng a moment to breathe. Sheng collapsed against him, unable to move, only able to cling weakly. Hua Yong wrapped his arms around him, holding him close as if protecting him from the world.